कितने पैसे चाहिए?
पैसा नहीं इज्जत। मोहल्ले के चिरकुट लौंडे हरा रहे मैं फैंटेसी स्पोर्ट्स में। आप एक्सपर्ट हो, सिखाओ।
सिखाऊंगा तो जाने दोगे?
फैंटेसी स्पोर्ट्स का
असली अखाड़ा।
इस गेम में वित्तीय जोखिम के तत्व हैं और इसकी लत लग सकती है। कृपया जिम्मेदारी से और अपने जोखिम पर खेलें।
Hello and welcome to the Outside View powered by Fantasy Akhada. So India have won the second T20I against Sri Lanka and they have sealed the deal. But there are a lot of positives for Sri Lanka to also take. And to discuss this match further on, I have alongside me our experts Mohit Shah and Annesha Ghosh. Welcome both of you. A good contest of cricket, we should say this. Of course, India won the match by 5 wickets. But let's first talk about the Indian skipper Harmanpreet Kaur. It was probably a captain's day today. Earlier in the day, we saw Chamari Attapattu with the bat showing her intent, and then in the second innings, it was Harmanpreet Kaur. Of course, it was a patient innings, but it was an important one, Anisha.
It was Ashwini, and knowing the problems that the Indian lineup yet again displayed in terms of trying to score the runs without too much of a hassle, that didn't happen today. Given they lost wickets along the way, it was not a huge total for them to be losing as many as seven, five, um, 5 wickets. It didn't look like a chase of that kind. Yet there wasn't much of a stability in the middle, but that stability did come from Harmanpreet Kaur. 31 runs of 32 balls. Eventually, she was scoring at lower than a runner ball for the best part of her innings, and she rounded it out with a four, which took her tally of fours to two in that innings. Very uncharacteristic of Harmanpreet Kaur, but again, she's one of the better players of spin in this lineup, and milked singles along the way, especially during that partnership with Yastika Bhatia. Yastika Bhatia was fortunate to survive a couple of chances, close calls in her innings, but Harmanpreet Kaur is in the kind of form you expected her to see, going by how fluent and prolific she was in the women's T20 challenge, both as batter and in terms of the agency she showed as captain. Here too, after taking 1 for 12 runs in a 3 overs, brought herself on in the 13th over, applied the brakes, and with the bat too, after Smriti Mandhana departed, yes, there were those quick fire knocks at the top from S. Meghna and Shifali Verma, but somebody needed to drop anchor, and gladly for India, it was Harmanpreet Kaur, their captain, and the series is in the bag. They go into the third and final T20I knowing they have their nose ahead and the series under their belts. So it was a good all round performance from their captain in every single department. She would have taken this anyway, knowing this is her first tour as the full time all formats captain, at least the full time limited overs captain. So a good start for the India skipper.
A good start for the Indian skipper, of course, for Harmanpreet Kaur. A good all-round performance coming in from her. She's also now the highest run getter for India in T20Is, and this tells you the importance of a player like her in the side. Mohit.
Yeah, like it's a great achievement. She's gone past Mithali Raj, and I think what makes that achievement even more significant is most of those runs, or almost all of those runs, have been selfless runs. Like, this is a player who's always put the team first, who's rarely played for personal glory, and that I think makes it even more special. Like, she's in the top 10 run getters in the format. She's India's leading run getter. She scored a century in the format. She scored a lot of half centuries. She's more than a handy option with the ball in this format. So I think Harmanpreet Kaur has a very strong claim to being India's best T20I player so far in what we've seen from India in the last 15 odd years of T20 cricket. Obviously, that might change with the influx of youth and all. But so far, I think in India's T20I history, if we talk about batting, Harmanpreet Kaur is right there at the top for a sheer versatility. Like Annesha said, like the ability to play according to the situation and not play her natural game is something that makes her stand apart from a lot of the other Indian players. Like today, India had a batting lineup till say number 10 or maybe even 11, because Simran and Radha are both batters who bat in the top 4 or 5 for Delhi and Baroda respectively. And they are more than capable of playing well in the T20I format. But what a lot of the top order did was they left it to the next batter, which is not ideal in a format or in international cricket for that matter. A lot of them played unnecessary shots, danced down the track, and were done in by the guile of the Sri Lankan spinners. It was not necessary. But what we saw today from Harmanpreet and have seen repeatedly is her taking the responsibility and staying there till the end. Like Annesha was saying in the last match, it's something that Mithali Raj used to always talk about, that a player who takes the responsibility and sees the team through definitely stands out, and that is what people remember and opponents remember as well. So I think India should be very thankful to have Harmanpreet Kaur in the team and leading by example the way she has for the last 6 years in this format.
Indeed, the skipper has led by example today. So this was about Harmanpreet Kaur, but let's have a look at the batting scorecard first. So initially we saw that Smriti Mandhana and Shafali Verma coming in there and starting the innings for India. 39 for Smriti Mandhana, of 34 balls, of course. Shafali Verma, 17. Sabineni Meghna, 17 there. And then comes a knock from Harmanpreet Kaur, as we just discussed. Jemima Rodriguez couldn't get going in this match, but Yasika Bhatia at the end contributed 13 runs. And Deepti Sharma, of course, not out from her of 5 runs. But this brings us to Smriti Mandhana's innings as well, Anisha, because we saw that when Harmanpreet Kaur came into bat, both of them were rotating the strike quite well. Getting those singles and doubles was important from their end, and it was probably a positive for Mandhana also, though the runs weren't at a very greater pace, at a faster pace. But those were important because we were talking about her records in Sri Lanka and everything, and we should quite keep that aside because she's too good a player to be actually judged by anything of her form.
Yeah, and you could see that intent, that initiative on the part of Smriti Mandhana today. Probably she did give her choice of shot from the previous game some thought after having departed early in that first T20I. Here she was in quite her element, so to speak. You know, those cover drives, back foot punches, gliding it square of the wicket, and going aerial, those with those lofted cover drives. These are trademark elements in a Smriti Mandhana innings when she's on song, and it was good to see Mandhana play that kind of an innings early on. Even so, because Shafali Verma, as we spoke earlier in the day, she made sure that the intent was out there, and the tone of the chase was set by Shafali Verma. You know, she was going hammer and tongs from the get-go, but Smriti Mandhana did not go on the back foot in a proverbial sense, and she too made sure that the asking rate never got out of India's reach, which allowed India to, take the game as deep as they eventually did. Had they not gotten the platform laid by the likes of Mandhana, Verma, and even S. Meghna up top, Harmanpreet would have been under some kind of pressure to make sure that the asking rate was taken care of. But it was never a challenge, despite the intermittent wickets they kept losing, because Mandhana ensured that with her 39 odd, which came at a reasonably slow pace, even by Mandhana's standards, she was able to take India closer to that target. And with Harmanpreet, that partnership was also crucial. And it reminded me personally of one of the recent stands we saw between Harmanpreet and Mandhana on the tour of New Zealand in the bilateral leg of that tour, which actually led to Harmanpreet finding her form, ahead of the World Cup, where there was this big hug between the two, and Harmanpreet went on to score that 100 in the World Cup following that partnership with Smriti Mandhana. And I personally felt Smriti Mandhana had a big role to play in Harman finding form, because she had been through a rough patch, low run scoring patch heading into that New Zealand tour. So Smriti Mandhana will take heart from the fact that she has gotten some runs here. And come the third T20I, I'm pretty sure we'll see a more relaxed and even more industrious Smriti Mandhana out there, because this is not an easy pitch to deal with. And the third T20 is also likely to be played on the same surface. And to me, it seemed that the surface picked up some pace in today's game, even during Sri Lanka's innings. The ball was coming onto the bat more than it did in the first T20I. So I think if the nature of the pitch is any indication, it might pick up some pace in the third T20I as well, and batting might get somewhat easy. It might become more flat for bowlers to have any impact on. So yeah, maybe that's something Smriti Mandhana would want to keep in mind and make sure that she ends the T20I leg of the tour on a high.
Well, that memory from the bilateral series was a lovely one to recollect. We saw Harmanpreet Kaur hit that six and the hug that followed, and definitely that was a sight that all the cricket onlookers, all of us, we cherish there. But speaking of India's batting order there, Mohit, as you earlier mentioned, that probably a few rash shots were played there. But someone like a Sabinini Meghna, you expect her to come there and express herself just the way she plays, like attacking game style. She did her job, probably came in and scored those quick runs, but then how do you see India's batting order shaping up? Because you see Jemima coming at number lower down the order, and then Yastika at number six there.
Yeah, like considering they dropped Richa Ghosh today, we have to like be very patient with at least Jemima and Yastika because this is the first time in their career that they are batting so low in a series. Like be it at the domestic level or international level, these are two players who almost always from the age group cricket have batted in the top three or top four. So it is not easy at all. Those are anyways the most difficult places to bat at in T20Is because either you come in after the top order is laid a platform and you need to hit from the outset, or you come in after there are a few wickets that have gone down quickly and you need to consolidate. So if India has decided that Jemima and Yastika are their first choice options for number 5 and 6, I think they need to be patient and give them more time. Especially with Jemima, I don't think there was any fault whatsoever with her play today. Like that ball was there to be hit. It's just the execution which let her down. But she's again a very intelligent player. We saw that in the last match. And I think she's a good fit for the number 5 role because she can hit boundaries, but her running between the wickets is also equally good. And she's generally enjoyed batting with Harmanpreet Kaur. So the two of them at 4 and 5 make for a really good combination. As for Sabineni Meghna, I think she'll be very disappointed because this is a player who has had to like grind on the domestic circuit for 5 years and then gotten an opportunity again in the Indian team. And if you look at the players who are sitting outside, there's someone like Richa Ghosh. So the opportunities that you will get are very limited. She's getting to play in a position that she's comfortable batting in at number 3. She gave India the impetus, got a few sweetly timed boundaries away. But at the same time, if we see her bat for the Railways, we saw it in the semis and the final of the Senior Women's T20 Trophy. That one of the big strengths that Sabineni Meghna has is to play according to the situation. So in the semis, she operated at a little over a runner ball, whereas in the final, where they were chasing a higher target, she went bang bang from the beginning. So today, like after having had a strike rate of 170, probably she picked the wrong ball to go after, didn't get to the pitch, and then got stumped. But it's still early days for her. She's not played a lot of international cricket. So I hope she learns from this experience and know, and yeah, like her shot selection should improve with time.
Well, yes, and of course, if we have to talk about the Sri Lankan side, then they did not let it be a cakewalk for the Indian batters either, as rightly Annesha mentioned in the beginning that we were 5 wickets down there. So the bowling unit has been doing their job quite well there, and the experience of Ushida Ranasinghe. We saw that she played well in the last game as well, and in today's match as well. She was quite impressive there, Anisha.
For sure, and it speaks to the kind of experience she brings in this Sri Lankan lineup. More so, given the opposition has as many as four left-handers as they did in today's match. Oshadi Ranasinghe coupled with Inoka Ranavira really made life difficult for India, and you could see the challenge Inoka Ranavira especially posed. It wasn't easy scoring runs off her. Both ended up picking 2 wickets apiece, and with the kind of spin attack Sri Lanka have, it has been a bit of a foregone conclusion that their spinners are going to come to the fore, come to the party, and apply the choke in patches, which is what they did. Had Gunaratne been able to hold on to Yastika Bhatia's catch in the deep in the closing overs, I'm pretty sure it would have spiced up the proceedings even more, and who knows, it could have pushed India to the edge, and also the game towards a closer finish. It did not look like it was all smooth sailing for India at any point, given the surface and given the guile and the aptitude of the Sri Lankan bowlers in specific. Inoka Ranavira, Oshadi Ranasinghe, they are going to play a big role in the ODI leg of the tour as well. And come the third T20I, I'm pretty sure they'll play a huge role in terms of making sure that India are not able to walk away with a clean sweep over Sri Lanka. So here's looking forward to how these two spinners in particular perform. And Kavisha Dilhari too did a good second fiddle to these two spinners. Again, she too was unlucky not being able to get that wicket of Yastika Bhatia. But the spin trio should be right at the center in terms of how Sri Lanka's fortunes pan out in the third T20. And should they have any hopes of getting that consolation win, these three spinners are going to have to play a vital role.
Though the total was not that challenging, but the Sri Lankan bowlers put up a strong fight there. So, of course, you mentioned about the bowlers and their contributions, but from behind the stumps, we saw Anushka Sanjeevani doing a great job today as well, Mohit.
Yeah, she's been extremely good behind the stumps, and that is the thing with Sri Lankan wicket keepers. If you look at their wicket keepers over the years, all of them have been very good behind the stumps. A lot of them have been specialist wicket keepers and have not always contributed with the bat. But if you look at Sri Lankan wicket keepers, be it Dilani Manodra or now Anushka Sanjeevani, all of them are very high class and high quality wicket keepers. They probably don't get as many plaudits as say Amy Jones or Sarah Taylor because they don't play that often, but they are no less. Like especially Anushka Sanjeevani, while standing up to the stumps is a class apart. Like if you remember the last match, the stumping that she got to dismiss Richa Ghosh was very difficult because the ball was really bouncing and jumping. So it's not easy to collect balls which are bouncing up to your shoulder or even to a height that is quite difficult. But like she has really soft hands, very good reflexes, and got three stumpings today. And Sri Lanka's fielding in general has been a big letdown. They missed plenty of run out opportunities. There was that catch which was on the difficult side. So I wouldn't say that it should have been taken. But if you want to win matches, you do need to take those kinds of catches. But Anushka Sanjeevani from behind the stumps has led the way for Sri Lanka and has been their standout in the field. And I think she's a very good batter as well. Like in the Pakistan series, I think she did really well in the T20Is. Batted too low today for my liking because she's a good rotator of the strike, and probably Sri Lanka should consider pushing her up the order. Maybe not today after that huge opening partnership, but whenever they lose a couple of wickets early and need consolidation, Anushka Sanjeevani is someone who can definitely contribute with the bat as well.
And if we look back at Sri Lanka's batting as it was in the first innings, there was a little bit of unfortunate incidences that happened there. Hasini Pereira was the part of the squad today, but she couldn't actually get the team going there. But heading into the next match, probably the team would want to avoid the clean sweep. So, what could be their approach there, Onisha? Because it's a home series, and they would want that their fans get to see that one final win from the side.
The anatomy of their batting innings in the two games would throw up things like how contrasting their approaches were in the two power plays. They scored only 25 runs for the loss of one wicket in the first game, and here they were scoring 37 runs. And after that, they completely squandered the momentum that they had gotten for themselves. So that's something that even Chamari Atapattu spoke of at the post-match interview, saying that they did not make the most of the start in the final 6 overs, which is where they lost the plot, so to speak. And it seemed as though all the batters were in a hurry to up the scoring rate, given they knew at the back of their mind that they had a great foundation to capitalize on. I think that played on their minds far too much for their liking, and they ended up watching it all up for themselves. So going into the third game, I'm pretty sure they have ticked that box of being able to find some fluency early on from their openers, from their top three in the power play, which is what Vishmi Gunaratne and Chamari Athapattu were able to do through their 87-run opening stand, the highest opening stand for Sri Lanka in T20I. So that speaks to the kind of amends that they have been able to make in that department. But now it comes down to how they are able to accelerate in the latter part of the innings, because you can't expect Chamari Athapattu to be playing all 20 overs unless it's that kind of a day for her. So the lower order needs to come to the play. The lower middle order as well has to join in the party. And Vishmi Gunaratne, I would hope for her to carry some of the form she displayed today, carry some of the confidence she showed in her stroke making into the third T20I. Given the series, the outcome of the series is already decided, but they should look to maximizing on the positives they've gotten. And Bishmik Gunaratne, to me, is one of the bigger positives for Sri Lanka to take away from this game, even more than Chamari Atapattu, I would say, because Bishmi is all of 16 and she had a record school cricket season heading into this series. I think just after the Commonwealth Games qualifiers where she debuted for Sri Lanka, she scored a whopping 417 runs in one innings in an under 19 school tournament, which is a record in Sri Lankan cricket. And that came off only 128 balls. It included 49 fours and 29 sixes. So that speaks to the kind of potential this batter possesses. And as Mohit mentioned earlier, that we could potentially see her leading Sri Lanka in the 2023 Under 19 inaugural Women's World Cup. So that's something for not just Vishmi to keep in mind, but also I'm pretty sure Chamari Atapattu, being a senior batter, senior member of the Sri Lankan squad, is keeping tabs on. So if Vishmi Gunaratne is able to replicate some of the form she showed today, I think it will mean great things for Sri Lankan cricket heading forward.
For Sri Lanka, the biggest positive from today's game, the second T20I, was the opening stand, of course, as mentioned by Annesha there, and Vishmi Gunaratne, the youngster coming in and stepping up for the side. That should have given her a lot of confidence heading into the final game that's going to be played at Dambula as well. But if we talk about the batting unit, as we already discussed, that there has been an issues there with the batting unit of Sri Lanka, and that's where we think that probably there is an over dependency on the skipper there, Mohit.
Yeah, that has been there for a long time now, and Shashikala Sirivardhane's retirement hasn't really helped their case because she was one really high quality middle order batter that they had and who they could always fall back on in scenarios where Chamari Atapattu would lose her wicket early. Again, one of the best off spinners ever in women's cricket and also a very good safe fielder. So I think they're really missing that high quality all rounder. They had Ishani Lokusurya gave for a very long time, change maker, difference maker with bat and with the ball. She was absolutely brilliant in that 2013 World Cup, and she was like a very passionate player. I think Sri Lanka is missing those game-changing players now in the middle order. But in Kavisha Dilhari, like Chamari Atapattu herself said, there is a possible replacement for someone like Shashikala Sirivardhane. I don't think one player can replace a player like that. You probably need two or three players. But with someone like Kavisha Dilari, all the ingredients are in place. She has all the shots with the bat, with the ball. We've seen she's a quick learner. Like Annesha mentioned today, she bowled a lot better. Last time she was thrown into the deep end, had to bowl that 20th over. But today her bowling was a lot better. She bowled tighter lines, didn't give away any freebies, bowled a little more quicker, and she probably is one of the better fielders too in the Sri Lankan team. Like very strong arm, we saw it today in the deep. She was quite good. So yeah, there is an over dependence on Chamari Atapattu, but I think Sri Lanka has the players to be able to make an impact. They just need more exposure against high quality attacks.
Kavisha Dilhari is definitely one player that Sri Lanka would consider as a great asset for the side, and that's from the Pakistan tour as well. She had a good outing there as well, and that's where the team will pin a lot of hopes on her in the final game. But speaking of India, we saw that today Yastika Bhatia did the wicket keeping duties, and she's been quite impressive in quite a few interviews of hers. She has mentioned that she loves to work on her wicket keeping abilities. She feels that doing so, she might provide herself with a greater opportunity to be a part of the side and then also contribute in both ways with the bat and with the gloves as well. So that has been an impressive thing from coming in from her, Anisha.
Certainly, Ashwini, and we know that Kiran More has played a huge role in her being able to find that confidence within herself to model herself into not just as a top order batter who can be a floater in the top to middle order, but also be a reliable keeper. She keeps regularly for Baroda and has done for West Zone in the age group as well as senior tournaments. And with her being able to keep wickets at the international level, to it just adds more versatility to India's lineup, and it doesn't make them so reliable as they were on, say, a Tanya Bhatia before Richa Ghosh came in. Tanya Bhatia, we know that she has struggled with the bat for many reasons. including the fact that she has been historically shunted up and down the order. There hasn't been a proper definition of role for her that has helped her. We cannot say that for Tanya Bhatia. And even when she got opportunities in a particular position, she has been off color. She's been inconsistent. She's done well in patches as well, especially that rare guard partnership she had with Sneh Rana in the Test match. But after Richa Ghosh started performing the way she did with the bat, she literally thrust Tanya Bhatia out of the equation in terms of the limited overs game. And with Yastika Bhatia having become a reliable contender, a reliable name in the ODI mix, the Indian skipper, which is now Harmanpreet Kaur across formats, she knows that she can turn to somebody like a Yastika Bhatia, given the reliability she offers solely by dint of her batting. Now, given she can also, chip in with the gloves, and she's a reliable wicketkeeper. It's not as though she's being thrust into the unknown, as was the case with Richa Ghosh. Richa Ghosh had barely kept at the top level, but Yastika Bhatia has a lot of experience keeping at the domestic level. So with Yastika Bhatia's ability to anchor innings, even today you could see that she took the responsibility on her, made the most of the reprieves she got early in her innings, wasn't too phased. Yes, there was those run out opportunities that did pop up here and there, and she eventually got stumped. But even then, she was able to take some responsibility and make sure she took the game as close to its end as possible and gave the kind of support Harmanpreet must have asked of her. So she does come across as a reliable, long-term, limited overs option for India. And if she can, perform regularly in whatever opportunities she gets, however scarce or however frequent they are, I think Yastika Bhatia she has what it takes to be one of the all-time greats of Indian cricket, mind you.
Well, we can certainly say so. And now that India has won the series 2-0, they'll look to clean sweep, whereas Sri Lanka would want to get that final win and probably make it a 2-1 math. But let's take predictions from our experts before we wrap this up. So, is it going to be a clean sweep, or are Sri Lanka bouncing back more?
It's hard for Sri Lanka to bounce back considering the number of limitations that they have, especially with their batting. Their bowling has arguably been as good as India's, if not better. But I think the one aspect that they would really be disappointed with is their fielding. It was very ordinary during the Pakistan series as well, and even during this series, their fielders have actually let their bowlers down. And fielding is one aspect where you can just make up with hard work. It's not like batting or bowling where if you have a limited skill set, you can't progress beyond a certain point, even if you're doing your best. But in fielding, like if you do the basics right, if you keep working at it, you can become really good. Like Shafali Verma is probably a good example of that. Still not a great fielder, but from the time she first came into the team to now, today she took that really good diving catch in the covers. So the amount of hard work that she's put in is showing. So I think if Sri Lanka get their fielding right, take all their catches, don't miss run out opportunities, just like emulate Anushka Sanjeevani behind the stumps, like give your best, take all opportunities that come your way. There might be a surprise in store, but I think India are the overwhelming favorites for me.
India favorites for Mohit, and your take on that, Annesha?
I have to concur with Mohit here, though I had said at the start of the series that I don't see either series being clean swept by India. I did posit them as overwhelming favorites to win both, but given how Sri Lanka have performed, a lot has been amiss in terms of their team compositions and the inability of their playing 11 to put up all-round performances. I think it is going to be a clean sweep. Whether Sri Lanka are able to, find some consolation through improved performances in specific sections of the three departments, as Mohit rightly alluded to, their fielding needs to be much, much better than it has been today or was in the first game as well. India, for their part, I think are going to put up a much better performance than they have so far in the two games. We've seen stop-start performances from most of their stars. Harmanpreet has done well, but even then, she wasn't at her trademark best, trademark aggressive, so to speak. But I think come the third T20I, now that they have the win in the bag and they have ticked a few boxes in several departments. Some of their batters performed in the first game, some others did today. I think we are going to see a more holistic, all-round well-polished performance in the third game, and should they get the opportunity to bat first after they win the toss, I think we're going to see a much bigger total, because as I mentioned earlier, the pitch seems to be getting flatter, and that will really make life very, very difficult for the bowlers, however good their spinners have been, Sri Lanka's, I mean.
So let's see what happens. Sri Lanka and India will lock horns with each other for the third T20 on 27th of June, and we'll of course join you with the pre, mid, and post show of that match as well. So stay tuned, and for all the updates on women's cricket, stay tuned to Women's Cricket Zone.
ये फटका
अब सीख तो गए, अब तो जाने दो मुझे।
ठहर जाइए, कोई प्रॉब्लम हो गई तो कहाँ ढूंढेंगे आपको?
फैंटेसी अखाड़ा का 24/7 कस्टमर सर्विस है, आपकी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करवा देंगे।
कल जाने देंगे।
फैंटेसी स्पोर्ट्स का असली अखाड़ा।
इस गेम में वित्तीय जोखिम के तत्व हैं और इसकी लत लग सकती है। कृपया जिम्मेदारी से और अपने जोखिम पर खेलें।